Hey guys, it's Ice here. I'm just doing a review video of the Khukri I just got from Khukri House Handicraft Industries, KHHI, Nepal. This is the 15-inch Victor Seek and Destroy. It was $120 with $20 for the stand, and then $50 for shipping, $10 for tax. Came up to $200 for me. This one is 15-inch blade, 10mm thickness, and that makes it a very heavy blade. It's not something you're going to carry on your belt. It's definitely like a pack knife, and the design of the blade puts a lot of the weight more forward, so it can do the work of an axe, and like anything like hacking, chopping wood, like splitting wood, it does very well. It can do the work of an axe, honestly, better than an axe. And it's much more unique. It's not as effective as a machete just because it's so heavy. You really can't swing it quite as fast and it tires you out, and it has a much bigger handle than a machete would. Even though it does look like it could be a machete, because it's so hefty, it really doesn't work quite as well for that. But pretty much everything else it does great. I got the newer handle. This is a newer adaptation. This isn't the traditional style. Traditional style just came straight down from the blade and fanned out at the end, and I really didn't like that. I heard a lot of bad things about how it would like tire out your palm after extensive use, and I don't know. That just didn't seem like a good design to me. And also there's no handguard here, so there's a good chance that your hand could slide up onto the blade and cut yourself while jabbing or anything like that with it. So I like this handle because it has this finger grooves. It's rosewood. You can see the full tang all the way through. I really like that. And it has handguard on both sides. It has right here, so if you're chopping with it like that, it's not going to come off. It has right here, so if you're jabbing, it's not going to slide up onto the blade. One thing I would have changed in the blade design is I'd like it if it had churis, like the other traditional Khukris do. A churi is basically just a groove along the blade right here, and that was mainly for strength in the blade design. So I figured at 10mm thick, you're really never going to be worrying about this breaking. So I figured I'd pass on the churis, but it definitely does add an aesthetic appeal to the traditional ones. And one thing that kind of sketched me out, this is true, when they make these blades, they get the steel from truck leaf springs, and that kind of sketched me out a bit because if you're using anything for what it wasn't originally designed to do, there's no guarantees it'll actually perform. But this does very well. If they were to use a more brittle steel, like AUS 8 or something like that, like in the SOG Navy SEAL Elite right here, this is a great steel for this kind of knife because it has a much shorter blade. You really don't have to worry about it breaking, and it's doing different kind of work. This isn't going to be splitting wood in one strike by its own weight. If anything, this is going to be carving, batoning, cutting straps, stuff like that. So this is a great steel for this knife. If they'd used that steel, that hard, brittle steel in this kind of knife, there'd be serious issues because there's so much weight behind it that after a big strike, it could easily damage or break the blade. But this steel is significantly more flexible, so I've seen people like drive like a semi truck over it while this is like balanced between two cinder blocks, and it'll just bend. It won't break, and it's completely usable after that. So there's really no way to break this knife. So it's almost literally indestructible. So that's one thing I really liked about it. For $120, you're getting something that's invincible. That's pretty good. So this is the blood groove. Obviously the Khukri, if you know anything about them, was traditionally used in Nepal to sacrifice buffalo. They would behead buffalo, oftentimes in one strike, and there would be so much blood that it would run down the blade and dribble down their hands, so they added this blood groove here, and it would just dribble off that point. Obviously we're not going to be using it for anything like that, but it is a nice traditional feature to have carried on. Honestly, this is a fantastic tool. It's very useful. It's definitely not just something like a display item, although it is a very good display knife. Another thing that I really liked about it was that it has a full tang. You can see that through the handle on both sides. And I make sure that whenever I get a fixed blade knife, it always has a full tang. Because if you're batoning wood or hacking or doing anything like that with a fixed blade knife that doesn't have a full tang, you're taking a huge risk that blade is just gonna break off. Because when it's just attached to the handle, when it started out separated from the handle, it's probably gonna end up like that. This knife has a full tang. You can see it goes all the way through the end here to that butt. So it's definitely a must-have for any fixed blade knife in my book, and that's especially important with this one. There's so much weight on this that if this was just attached to the handle, one strike could send that blade flying off the handle. So yeah, that is very important. And the sheath. This was handmade out of wood and buffalo leather. It's very simplistic. There's no straps on it or anything like that except for this belt loop up here, which really isn't very useful. You really can't store this on your belt. It's so heavy that it hinders your walking, and you really can't take it out of the sheath, because imagine this is your belt and you're taking it off. It really doesn't come off very well because it's just flimsy compared to the weight of the knife. So this is really more of a pack knife, and something that kind of got in the way of that was this metal cap here. This had a very sharp point on it, and when I first put it in my pack, it punctured straight through the nylon webbing. So I put this nut here, this bolt or nut, and just hot glued it there so it can be taken off smoothly, to dull that, to cover up that point, so it's not going to be puncturing through any of my equipment. So yeah, I don't really know why they did that. I think it was probably just traditional design, similar to the blood groove. But yeah, it's not too hard to fix. And also the steel is untreated on this. There's no coating. There's no. It's not stainless. It's just straight up metal. No treatment, anything. So if you're at a lower altitude, you're going to be seeing some rust with this blade if you don't treat it. Got to oil it up very nicely. It came very nicely oiled, but since I'm at a higher altitude, I really don't have to worry about that. There's a lower oxygen level, lower humidity level. So I took all the oil off. Also, that helps with it being a display knife. You really don't want it to be looking very greasy and grimy. So yeah, but if you're at a lower altitude, you want to keep it treated well. If you see any rust starting to form, act on it quick. Get a de-rusting agent or something like that. Yeah, so that is the 15-inch Khukri Victor Seek and Destroy. Thanks for listening. This is Ice.